right. Richard Baratta, you're here with Jim Carty from Blues and Beyond YouTube channel and the Patch newspaper in southeastern Connecticut. It's a nice surprise today. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fine. It is a surprise. Yeah.
Yeah, man. But I'm glad the folks at the Side Door Jazz Club hooked us up to have a chat in advance of your date, which I believe is December 1st here in Old Line.
That's correct. Friday, December 1st. Yeah.
And you're bringing your Latin jazz sextet, right?
Yeah, I'm coming actually with a quintet.
Or a
Bones
quintet.
Back had a prior engagement, so I'm coming up with a group. I play a lot. This band plays a lot as well. So
Mhm. Good, good. Well, we still get to see you.
yes, you do. Yeah.
Good. And as I told you, I'm so sad I'm gonna be seeing the Almond Betts revival in Boston. I had long since had that planned. Otherwise I'd be there with bells on, but I'm gonna come find you for another
Okay.
show.
All right. Well,
Now that I know where to find you, we'll have to do that. But for folks who don't know much about your career or careers, as we were talking, you really have had two careers. You started out in music and then shifted to filmmaking and then back to your first love. So tell me a little bit about your background.
well, uh, I'll go way back, but I'll speed through way back. Okay.
Sure.
So I grew up in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Hmm.
Okay. And went to college in New York. And then when I was in college, I was going to go to law school. Okay. I played
Hmm.
music when I was a teenager. I played saxophone, I played a little flute, but I played mostly drums. So I
Hmm.
played a lot of bands from the age of 12 on to the
Yeah.
current. So went away to school, and it wasn't music school, liberal arts,
Yep.
and Wagner College on Staten Island.
Hmm.
And I was going to study law. My father was a Supreme Court judge in the state of New York.
No
So,
kidding.
and he was a DA and then a county judge, then a Supreme Court judge. So,
Impressive guy to follow after, right?
yeah, well, and he played piano. He was a good piano player as well. So, he kept saying, don't play music. He said, go to
You're
law
gonna
school.
starve, kid. You're gonna starve, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. He said, you can play it. He said, it's not a problem. He said, but go to law school first, get your degree, and then you can do whatever you want because you can always fall back on the law degree and the practice. And I said, yeah, it made sense, but it didn't make sense in my heart. It didn't make sense for me to do it. So, of course, like most kids, I didn't listen to him. So
Mhm.
I I went I moved to New York and I started playing music from 75 when I moved to New York to 84. I was up in the Woodstock area
Mhm.
in 73 to 75. And then I moved down in 75 to New York. And from 75 to 84, I was playing music. I was playing at the clubs. I was doing recording. I was doing some traveling, playing with
Mhm.
some good players, real good players in New York. And it's a big but, I really wasn't making any money. I wasn't doing the jingles. I wasn't on the studio scene where
Right, right.
the real money was. And I didn't want to do Broadway shows. I didn't want to do that. And not that anybody asked me, but I didn't want to do it anyway. And so, with the slim pickings money wise, and I wanted to get married and have a family,
Mhm.
I started thinking from like 81 on, what else can I do? Because I didn't know if I wanted that to be my life. I was
Mhm.
dedicated to it, but I saw the writing on the wall for me, not for, I'm not speaking for other people.
Now,
So
now you said you studied liberal arts, but was there something in your liberal arts course of study that drew you to the filmmaking, or did you feel like you had some kind of avocation that suited you to get into it, or was it just an interest and you were like, you know what, I don't care if I start again from ground zero. So where was your head at that point in
funny
81?
you would ask that question because that was the next thing in the linear.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it had to evolve into that.
Sure. Yeah.
So I started, when I lived I had a nice loft back in those days in the 70s. You get a nice loft. I had a nice loft on 16th Street, right off Fifth Avenue, and I used to have sessions there all the time. But
Yeah.
in the summer, it got real hot. I was on the fifth floor, and I couldn't afford to air condition the place. It
Yeah.
was just it would have been too much. So I used to go
To the
to
movie theater like everybody did back then.
and I used to go, like 2 in the afternoon till 7 at night, the double features at Cinema Village and
Yep.
St. Mark's Place and the Thalia. And I used to go see a lot of movies. And I really had an affection for them, from the Hitchcock repertoires, the repertory to the Sturgeons, Preston Sturges, to Wilder, to all those guys. And a good friend of mine who I played sports with, we played baseball together. I played in college, but I knew him later. And we played a lot of the sports in the city, and he was in the film business. He was a production manager for Woody Allen.
Okay.
So he used to come and see me play music, and I would go to the sets. I would go to a Scorsese set or a Woody Allen set. And I kept saying, I'd like to get into this business. And
Mean Streets. He's never done anything better than Mean Streets.
That's not necessarily true. But
maybe The Last Waltz.
oh, well, that was good too.
Well, yeah,
so you didn't like
Goodfellas?
Goodfellas? No, Goodfellas.
Yeah, no, I love Goodfellas. Okay.
I mean,
maybe I'm picking on the wrong guy.
Yeah, don't pick on that guy. If you want to pick on somebody, that wouldn't be it. Plus, you don't want to pick on him anyway. He's got too many friends. So,
who do you know?
I'll find out where you live. So anyway, so I waited a couple of years because it was hard. And he said, I think I have a project for you. He said, our good friend, mutual friend, Michael Pizer, who was a producer, said, was prepping Desperately Seeking Susan. And they said, we need a location person. The Lower East Side really well. You have a car. So how would you like to do it? And I said,
that blows me away, because that seemed to me like a really groundbreaking movie at the time.
That was a seminal film.
It really was. It was such an expression of where the culture was going. Madonna was in it, and she was really just a burgeoning star at the time, and just the sexuality and the just everything about that movie that I recall was just it was a real turning point in the culture at that time. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah, that's the way to say it. It was on the heels of Scorsese and Cassavetes and Spielberg, and there was all those guys were making those movies, and it was starting, and Coppola. So though they were in the early 70s, this was in 84, but this was like a new wave again, and so so they said,
"Do you want fresh faces too?" These weren't the same faces that we were seeing on the screen. I think with that
they were different. It was like a decade later, but it was the new filmmakers again. Susan Steichen was the director. And it was Madonna's first one, and she was a sweetheart. She was fine, she was a star at the time, and I did it, and they paid me like $40 a day and $100 a week for my car, and I said, well, I'm in. I mean, I know it wasn't a lot of money, but it was something. It was steady. And
now, were you still gigging at night to make ends meet at this point?
Something. If I kind of cut it off, because the you can't serve two masters, and the movie business really consumes you. And I quit a band that was with Vernon Reid was on guitar in a band, and it was Jessica Hagedorn. It was like a performance band, and we were playing 55 Grand Street and different places in the city. But I just didn't feel it anymore. I just said, I got to move on. You know what I mean? If your heart's not in it, you're not getting paid enough. So I just moved on.
Right. Not even a wedding band on the weekends to make ends meet, huh?
Oh God, no, please.
Help me.
No, I didn't want to do any of that.
Yeah.
So I would play, if somebody called me, I would play a gig if I had time. So, but so I did that movie, and it was weird, because I was getting up at 4 a.m. when I used to get home at 4 a.m.
Right.
And sometimes I would see people going to work in the morning to get the trailers all parked on the street that were coming from the clubs, saxophone players and drummers. It was like, I was kind of embarrassed that I kind of deserted and left, and quit. So it was a weird cultural shift for me. So anyway, I did that movie, and when I was done, I couldn't stand it. I really couldn't stand it. I mean, it was okay, but I didn't like it because I didn't really have any responsibility.
Mhm.
I followed orders. I was a low-level PA location person, even though I
Yeah.
had some responsibility, but I didn't have enough, and I didn't know anything about the business really. So I learned, and I said, I'll probably be done with this. What am I going to do with my life? And
Mhm.
I'd just been married, and I was still living in New York. And then I got a phone call. I was watching a Monday night football game with a bunch of people over the loft. So he
Mhm.
said, you Richard Baratta? Yeah, I hear you're a good scout. And I said, oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, I guess. He said, well, we're doing a movie, Wise Guy. It's a Brian De Palma film, and we need somebody to scout some locations. And I said, oh, man, to myself. I said, well, what's it pay? And they said, well, it pays $60 a day. And I went, well, it's a 33% raise.
Right. I was just going to say, percentage-wise, that's not a
And I
bad
said,
job.
I said, okay. I said, okay, I'll do it. Pay for the car? Yeah, pay for the car. Okay. So I did that, and they liked me. And the next thing I know, I got called to do a Woody Allen movie. What's that pay? Well, that paid me $75 a day. So, and then I got asked to do a Mike Nichols film,
Mhm.
Heartburn. And then they paid me more. And then I did Big. And then when I did Big as a location manager, I got into the Directors Guild as a second assistant director. So I did that. So now I had benefits, and I had all of that, and I had a minimum salary with the Directors Guild. And then that
And you
second,
knew where the Zoltar machine was the whole time and didn't tell anybody.
what's that?
And you knew where the Zoltar machine was the whole time and you
And
didn't
I
tell
still know
anybody.
where it is. I
You
still know.
know,
Yes.
I bet it's in somebody's home and safe and secure.
That'll be the next interview we do. I can't give it all up on this one.
All right.
So yeah, so then it just kind of snowballed. Then I did Working Girl, and then I did, and I just did one, and then I became a production manager. And then in 2000, I did Made in Manhattan, and I did Mona Lisa Smile as a co-producer. And then I became an executive producer when I was doing Wolf of Wall Street and The Irishman and The Joker. But in 2017, I just said, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to play music.
Mm.
So I got back into music. I had a great opportunity to play at Kaufman Astoria Studios, had the old commissary that they turned into a club.
Oh,
Commissary had like Rudolph Valentino and the Marx Brothers and Mae West and Loretta Young, and all those people ate there. So, I mean,
wow.
think of the history in that
Yeah.
place, the ghosts. So they said, can you just give us some advice how we can turn this into a nice cabaret club, jazz club? And I said, yeah. I said, I'll do that, because they knew I had played in my other life.
Hmm.
And I said, you got to let me play. I want to play a gig there. And they said, oh yeah, definitely, you can play a gig. So the first gig I played, I tapped in. Most of the people I knew I didn't know well anymore. Some had died,
Hmm.
and other ones, and the new guys were on the scene. And I got introduced to Emmett Cohen and Russell Hall. And the first
Yeah.
gig I played was with Emmett Cohen and Russell Hall, after not playing for like 35 years. And
Yeah. Just hooked right in with the Coens there. That ain't. I'm a big Anat fan myself.
yeah, yeah. So,
Uh,
right. So there we go. Did that. And
yep.
then,
Yep.
on the heels of that, the next gig I played down there, I had Eric Alexander and Marcus Printup played,
Wow.
and Emmett Cohen and LaDon split the piano chair one night, one and one
Oh
the other.
wow.
And
Nice.
then Stryker played with me with Mike LaDon, and then it just kept snowballing. And then I mean, it was like my club. I could play there 2-3 times a month. They let me play there whenever I wanted.
So good.
And I was working on a movie right at the studio. I was working on The Irishman and The Joker, so people from the movie could come and see me play on a Friday. They were there already,
Yeah.
so I
Good.
kind of had a built-in audience. And I
Hey,
got
I gotta ask you because I'm
yeah,
curious. So did Woody Allen come down and play the room? Because, one of the last cabarets is the Carlisle, the Cafe Carlisle. He plays there. So only so many rooms like that, and I know he's a great clarinetist.
yeah, no,
No, never, huh?
no, but
Have you stayed in touch with Woody or no?
no, no. but not because, I mean,
For
because
any particular reason, right? Yeah,
when I met Woody, I was like a location scout. You know what I
right.
mean? If I was a producer, I probably would have.
Yeah,
Although there's a certain distance maybe I would have kept too, because there's a little bit of a checkered past with Woody. You know,
right.
I'm not making any judgment on him. I'm just saying there was some of that. But
Yeah,
the guy that did come down and sing with us 3 times, and he is a good singer,
Pesci.
is Pesci.
Pesci, I love Pesci.
Right. You
I
talking
was
to
going to
me?
ask about Joe too. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So Pesci came down and sang with us, and it was a blast because he used to go by the name of Joe Dogs, and
Hmm.
he played with Joey DiFrancesco. He did some work
Yep.
with him, and Joe was fun because I was working with him on The Irishman, so we would talk music. I didn't really talk acting with him that much. We talked a lot about music because he's a real big jazz fan, and he
Did you
did
feel that was his first passion too?
yeah, because he was from Newark, and he was part of
The
the
Sinatra.
Jersey Boys. He
Yeah,
kept
sure.
together. So he was involved with that. So Joe, he was a natural. Whenever he came to the club and sang, people went crazy. You
Yeah,
know,
him and Jimmy Roselli are the two lost singers from Newark, right?
yeah, I guess,
Although, Jimmy Roselli was on all the jukeboxes in the north end of Boston where I grew up.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yep.
That was the Italian section up there.
Yeah. Oh, I think the Boston mob just put him in the Boston jukeboxes to spite the New York families who were
Yeah,
in
well,
charge
they
of
told you
the
what
New
to
York
play.
jukeboxes.
Yeah, yeah. Of course. So anyway, that club just kind of catapulted me,
Yeah.
and I became very close with Vincent Herring and Bill O'Connell and Dave Kukowski
Yeah.
and I and Bolenbach, and I did a couple of recordings with them, and they still play with my band, and
Mhm.
we do a lot of playing, and and that's kind of the story. And people ask me, are you still making movies? And my answer really is no. I mean,
Yeah.
after 55 films and doing it, it's like, I did it.
Yeah.
I did it, and I made enough money that I really don't have to worry about the money, which at times is not great. And it's a struggle in the music business. And the film business is a tough business, real tough business,
Mm.
answering to studios, heads, and balancing the budget and being in the middle of the director and the studio. And you can't shoot this and you can't shoot that. And actors not wanting to be there on that day because they don't, and all those things. But it
Mm.
pales in comparison to how difficult the music business is.
Yeah. I
So,
actually just recommended the miniseries The Offer to a friend of mine this
oh yeah,
weekend.
there you go.
And I think that depicts in a nice way, the making of the Godfather and those tribulations that you're discussing about, the heads of the studios and serving all these different masters and somehow still while making the sausage coming out with a meaningful piece of
Yes,
artwork that is
well,
saleable to the public.
that's the real gratifying part of it. With the
Yeah.
end result, it's like building a house. But you know, a lot of times you put a nail in your finger, or you might cut your finger off. You know what I mean? It's like
Hmm.
you have to
Hmm.
go through all of that. But I wouldn't trade any of that in for anything.
So let me ask you this, because this occurs to me. I've had many discussions with friends about being a band leader. I remember Jay McShann and I talked about this at length. He was great. The guys would want it advance. I ain't got nothing but $1, and he'd only hand him $1 to go drink on for the night or whatever. But there's something to be said for being a band leader, and you as a drummer, that's not always the obvious guy in the that wears that hat, but clearly you're doing that now. Do you think that being an executive or a higher up in the film industry and managing those dynamics has helped you ramp up so quickly again to be at such a high level again in the music industry and be a good band leader?
Immeasurably,
Yeah.
absolutely.
How so?
Well, in the film business, you know, if you follow up on things and then you follow up on them again, and then you
Mm.
follow up on them again, because if you make a mistake, each hour, if you shoot a 12-hour day and the day costs you $300,000,
Oof.
I mean, just divide 12 into 300, you know, you're costing
Yep.
your $25,000 by making mistakes. So we're very buttoned up,
Yeah.
very buttoned up. And there are a lot of people that work with me, under me, but with me. I like to
Mhm.
think of it as a collaboration.
Right.
And you cross all your T's and dot all your I's. And I found that in the music business, whatever the business is, the music,
Mhm.
you know, I'm always prepared. The music is always there. You know, I make sure the charts are right. You know, the guys know when we're playing, when we're not playing, when the rehearsals are. And there's an organization to it that I hold myself to a very high standard for that because I
Mhm.
think it makes the job easier for the guys. And, you know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so,
Now,
so yeah,
I feel
following up.
like that there's only like musically as a band leader, you can be prepared, as you say, with the charts, rehearsing the guys, advancing the gig with the club, let's say, making sure those things are in place. But there, some of the most difficult things is on the business side, being a band leader if you're self-managed, to get a club to actually send you a deposit check and a signed contract. And we have it on the books. I don't know what you're worried about. You know, why are you bugging us? You know, we got so much going on here at the club. Don't worry about it. The gig's on, right? How many times have you heard that crap? And you're used to being
Do they,
buttoned up, you
do
know,
they have,
as huh?
do they have contracts? I didn't even know
Right.
they had.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right?
No,
So,
no.
you know, you're trying to manage vendors as a filmmaker, and you button them down, and you make people on time, and you hold even, you know, labor leaders and union guys, you to task and so on. And then you get this loosey goosey bullshit in the music business. And after not dealing with it for decades, did you want to pull your hair out again and go, why did I do this to myself? Or do you love it that much? I'm sorry, Rich. Mine's just great.
I already pulled it out from the film business. So the
Yeah.
music business, you know, the answer, you know, I mean, come on, you know,
Yeah.
you're, it's tough. It's tough, you know, and people, and what's tough about it for me, one of the hardest things about the music business is that, I mean, you got to go out and you got to hustle gigs. Even if the music's good, you still got to hustle gigs. And because there's so many great musicians. I mean, there just are.
Right.
So the competition is there. But uh, what makes it hard for me is that in the film business, when I would leave a message for somebody, or somebody would leave a message for me, which would be 150 of them a day, people always calling, what's this? What are we shooting? What scenes are going on? The director needs this. Can we get an extra crane? We need that other actor here. Can we fly them in? Those are, and returning phone calls. I mean, either I'm returning them or my coordinator is returning them or my assistant. And, you know, I'm returning everything. And I don't care who it was. It didn't matter. It was the guy parking, putting the cones on the street or the studio. I called.
It all needs to be done. It all needs to be
Because
done,
I
right?
did, but I also did it because it was a respectful thing to do.
Right.
But in this business, you notify people and you don't ever hear back. And they'll
Right.
call,
Because
call you
the
back.
ethos. Yeah.
Yeah,
Where did it go?
they kind of they disappear. And for me, it's like that's so irresponsible. And it's not courteous either.
Mhm.
So, you know, I just a simple phone call or an email. You know, I'm sorry I can't help you at this time. That's all fine.
Yeah.
But that's just not what it is. And maybe it's a supply and the demand. I don't know. But
Yeah.
that's the unfortunate part.
Yeah. But you're enjoying your second your second go around, which is great. And
Who
you know,
said I was enjoying?
I see a smile on your face. I'm assuming so.
Yeah, I listen. I enjoy it. I'm not playing the music to support a family. My kids are all grown up. I've already made my money. So I'm doing it because I love the music and I love playing the music. I love getting together with the guys and I love sharing something that I think is really good to listen to, worthwhile to come and see with the audience. So
Yeah.
I love that aspect of it. The business side of it, you know, that's a different thing. But you know, that's the good, the yin and the yang.
That's it. That's it. So let's dive a little deeper into what we can expect material wise that you're going to do with your outfit here at the side door.
Okay. So, by the way, that's a great club. I mean, I love that.
Best, one of the best,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, it's just a great club. It's a little gem up there in the middle of New York and Boston, and Ken is a sweet guy.
Yep, yep.
I thought when I met him that I was talking to Pete Carroll, the coach
Yeah,
of the Seahawks, and he said a lot of people say that he looks so much like him, and he's an ex drummer or a current drummer, and
yep.
so and Chris came and saw me play like 4 years ago at Georgia. So when I told him I wanted at the Astor Room, which was a Kaufman Story Studio, so
Hmm.
when I notified him, he was kind enough to get back to me and have me come up there and play last, I think, April. So anyway, it's a great club. It's
Yep.
very comfortable. The food is great. They make it so comfortable. The enthusiasm is great. So what I'm going to play there is I brought this with me, just so happened to have my CD in front of me. I don't know where it came from.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Yep.
but but this is the latest one off the charts with Kukowski and Jerry Bergonzi and Patitucci, and that's not the band that's going to be there. But I'm going to be playing. You asked me about the music. I'm going
Yep.
to be playing music from that CD. I still have
Mm.
Bill O'Connell and Craig Handy and percussionist Paul Rossman on percussion. Um, so I'm going to be playing music from that. Plus, I'm going to play some of the favorite tunes from my music and film, either The Real Deal, which was the first one, or the sequel, the second one. And we got nominated for a Grammy for the first one. One of the tunes got nominated for a Grammy.
Super.
Yeah, which was out of the gate coming back to playing music. It was only a year after stopping, the movies. It was
Hmm.
a shock to me. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was like, wow. And this one that I'm doing has been on the radio charts. It's been in the top 5 for the last 5-6 weeks. So
Wow.
people are playing the music, which is a nice thing. And I know the music's going to be smoking up there the night we play. I mean, it's going to be real good. So whatever you do to prepare to come to a club to listen to music, prepare and show up because it's going
Yep.
to be good.
Well, Ken being a drummer, I know he dreams of being the drummers that come to the club. Uh, I
And
know
there are a lot of good ones that come through there.
he booked some great guys. Farnsworth is a regular, and he studied under Alan Dawson. Uh, uh, where or with whom did you study, or who do you like to emulate for your drum style?
Uh-huh.
I'm
Well,
curious about that.
yeah. Well, I mean, when I was younger, I studied, more classical, rudimental playing from a guy named Norman Grossman, who was no longer with us, and
Hmm.
he was in New York, and I would take the train down to study with him. But a guy that I studied with, and I feel is like a mentor, unbelievable. I mean, come on, is Dijonette when I was living up
I
near
saw
Woodstock.
that.
Yeah, so I studied with Jack and Bobby Moses for a while. So
I got I don't know if you remember Dijonette was part of a record called Tales from the Hudson
oh
years
yeah,
ago.
yeah, with
And
Brecker and
yeah,
Joey
with
Calabrosso.
Brecker. Exactly. And
I
at the
have it
time
right
it
over
was
there.
I was palling around with his agent. Ted Curlin and Associates was booking him, and my friend Jack Randall is the second guy in charge at the Curlin, and he sent me out to hang out with Dijonette the night that they played. I think it was at Scullers or the Regatta Bar, one of the two in the
I want to
Boston
play there.
area. Where's that, Scullers?
Colors, definitely. But go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt.
But no, I actually think they did they actually had a function room. It was such a big release, CD release at the hotel that housed the Regatta Bar. Now that I recall, and I sat right behind Dijonette for the night, and I just remember the two coolest drummers I ever sat behind and watched them just drive their bands all night was Butch Trucks of the Allman Brothers Band and Dijonette. Just two unforgettable nights for me.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
Yeah,
So
amazing. Yeah.
so lucky that you studied with him.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I mean, well, I would go to his house. He had a place up in Bearsville. I think he still does. And
Mm.
I remember the first lesson I went to, I knocked on the door and his wife, Lydia, said, go around the back. He's downstairs. He had a nice cabin, nice big cabin built his house. And I went into I went through the back door, and he was practicing. This is 1974. Okay, 3 or 4. And he was just practicing. You know, he was just coming off of Miles and Charles Lloyd and those guys. And he just looked at me and he kind of pointed to the floor to sit down. There wasn't a chair down there. There was a piano, electric piano he had, and then and he just said, sit down. And I sat down. I sat down like next to his tom-tom. You know, I was that close to him. And I only had met him once before to set up the lesson. And about 45 minutes later, he stopped playing. And I was going to leave my $20 or whatever it was that I paid him and just quit. I mean, he had, you know what I mean? It was like,
he just had you watch him, and
I was mesmerized.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it didn't matter. It was kind of mesmerizing. And he got done and he went, okay, man. That's what, you know. So I'm going to go over and play the piano. You play the drums. Let me hear what you got. You know, we'll do that. And we played for an hour and he gave me tips and everything. And we did that a number of times, maybe half a dozen times, you know, throughout the next number of weeks or months. And and he's still like a friend, you know,
That's great.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. You know, now that we're talking about this, I remember people tell me, you know, or they've told me themselves, Bernard Pretty Purdy, Alan Dawson, Farnsworth has said this, like, you know, a lot of these old school drummers and teachers always did rudimentary stuff on a daily basis themselves, had their students do it. Was DeJohnette like rooted in the rudiments like that, or you know, what was his methodology? I know Dawson was very tough on his students.
Oh, Dawson would be.
Yeah.
Moses, Jack, Billy Hart was a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
The rudiments, I think it was an expected that you had already
do it or to master
done that, and that you knew that was important because everything derived from the rudiments. Right. So, you know, it was more about feel and interpretation of the music. You know, I remember Dave Holland. I gave Dave Holland a ride home. They had played a concert at New Paltz College, and when it was over, I recorded it for them on a real good Sony 2-track, reel to reel.
Cool.
You know, so I recorded for him, and Jack said, "Can you go up to my house and we'll have, you know, we'll go up there and we'll listen to it." You know, and he could have said, "Can you come up to my house and rake the leaves while we're inside listening?" And I would have said, "Sure, why not? I mean, you know, whatever.
Yep.
Do I have to pay you to rake your leaves?" So I said, "Yeah," and I hopped in the car, and Dave Holland, I had a station wagon because I was a drummer. And Dave Holland asked me if he could ride back with me because he had come down with Jack in a smaller car. So Holland and I drove up together to Jack's house, about a 45-minute drive. And he said, "You know, what do you do?" He didn't know me. And I told him I was a drummer. And he said, "Who do you study with?" And I mentioned I study with Jack. And he said, "You ought to study with me."
Oh, stealing a student.
And I was like, "Well, you know, you're a bass player. Why would I study with you?" And he said, "Well, you play with the bass player."
All right, Richard, we're back.
All right, so seamless. We'll do a real good celluloid cut here and splice.
Good.
I got one of those right. I'm like, so here we go. So he says you got to play with bass players. He said,
it's true. It's true.
You don't play with drummers. You play with bass players. And I said, well, you know, maybe I'll do that. But it never happened. But that was smart. I probably would have learned equally something else from playing with him.
Absolutely.
So, but that was, you know, you know, we got cut off for a minute here if anybody's watching, so we're trying to get our train of thought back.
Our bearings back there.
Our
Yep.
bearings back, exactly. But yeah, so that's it. And you know.
But I mean, it's so serendipitous you get hooked in with such wonderful musicians at the beginning of your career, and then this second chapter of your music career, and then your friend. I mean, you never really said what your friend in the film business, what his station was. Did he go right from school into the film business, and was he
Oh,
hooked in enough?
You mean the guy that got me the first
The
job?
very first gig,
Yeah.
yeah.
So he became he worked with Woody for a number of years. He became a producer, a pretty big producer, and he produced a lot of good movies. And I worked on some of those movies with him. We kind of went our separate ways, not only because I kind of was doing a parallel job with him, but he got me into the business, and he did really well. Unfortunately, he passed away about 4 years ago now. He was a good friend. We stayed close friends for all that time. Yeah.
That's great. Was it the case that you could stay in the New York metro area for your film industry and just travel to locations as needed, or did you actually have to move to the weird coast, the left coast there for a while?
You know, that's another good question. You've done this before because you ask good questions.
Hey, well, I know Bucky Pizzarelli just wouldn't go with the Tonight Show band, and the NBC Orchestra. He was raising his family, so he stayed in New York, right? I mean, so some guys went to, California, some didn't.
I went the Pizzarelli group route. I stayed in New York. I was fortunate enough to have established a pretty good reputation for whatever reason in New York, and as a location manager, I would always do movies in New York, because I knew New York. I didn't know Pittsburgh, let's say.
Right.
But then as I moved up the ladder and became production manager and a producer, I got asked to do pictures, and I would ask if they were out of town. And I didn't want to because I had 3 children, still do. And my daughter, they're all grown up. 2 of them are in the film business now, but 2 of them, the 2 boys, were good athletes, and they played a lot of sports. And my youngest son even tried out for the Mets and the Brewers. He was a really good baseball player, good college player. He went to Wesleyan. He never made it, so he's making films now. And by the way, I did produce his film that he shot his first feature last August. He had done shorts, but this was his first feature, and I did produce that. So I went back to do a movie with my son, and I would do the same with my daughter. But I don't think I'm going to do any other. Yeah, look, never say never about anything. It's possible something could happen, but at the moment,
you'll take their call. You'll take their call, right?
Some of them, yes. So I didn't go out of town because I wanted to stay here. I knew that I didn't want to leave my wife with the 3 kids. Maybe that's why I just celebrated my 40th wedding anniversary. So I stayed with them, and I would tell the producers of some movies that I did, look, I'll take the movie shooting in New York, like Pelham 1, 2, 3, but there are weekends and there are games that I'm not going to miss. And they would say, just keep your phone near you because we want you to do the movie. So I kind of would build that in, and I didn't miss any college games when I used to go to all the college games. So I kind of carved out a niche. Now, I would go out of town. I went to Liverpool when we did Across the Universe. We had to shoot part of it in Liverpool. We shot Donnie Brasco down in Fort Lauderdale and Miami. We shot different movies. I've gone to different places. I've gone to Jamaica, but it's, I was in North Carolina for 3 months, but it was never for a full movie. It was always for partials, and we would relocate for a couple of weeks of shooting and prepping, and could turn into a couple of months. But I really kept my home base as New York, and until the kids grew up. And then if they grew up, I stopped and I started playing music again. I filled that void with that.
So something I was reading about the film industry that I'm curious about, I noticed that CGI is just so prevalent now, and so many more movies. You've got animation or computer generated animation. And with the advent of artificial intelligence, I've been reading that this is just going to be like just incredible, uh, what it's going to do to transform every industry, but potentially the film industry as well as the music industry. The latest Elvis record is going to come out next week, potentially. Who knows,
Playing with my band.
playing with your band. I mean, it's just frightening. But what could be done in, the way of bringing back even passed away actors, or just craziness, and people like, I don't want anything to do with anything like that. It's just so distasteful, or uh whatever. So what's your feeling? I'm sure that some technology made your life better over the years as you progressed in your career, and now you're seeing the precipice of AI and robotics and everything here, and in the next 5 to 10 years it's really going to transform the way we live. What are your thoughts on that from both industries?
Well, I think that technology has helped destroy the music industry.
Hmm.
Token, it's also helped it. I mean, the negatives are probably outweigh the positives with it. For big stars, I guess it's good. Um, it's interesting. Technology, there's no stopping it, and there's no stopping progress or
Yeah.
regress under the name of progress. So, it's a scary thing, but we've seen as a society and as a civilization to adapt to things and kind of make them more palatable to live with. Technology is moving real
Mm.
fast. And I just read yesterday where population of the world just went from 6 billion in 2020, which is already an astounding, incomprehensible
Crazy number. Yeah.
8 billion in 20 years. And it like doubled from 3 to 6 billion from 1960 to 2000. So it's moving. So, it's like, what are you going to do? Whether you like it or not, it's happening. So I think
Hmm.
you gotta just kind of adapt to it. I don't like it. I'm an older person. Maybe
Yeah.
the younger people are okay with it.
Well, there
Certainly.
are influencers that are, musically inclined that are making hand over fist money. I'll tell you, I mentored a girl named Liv King, and her brother is Mike King, the pitchers for the Yankees. And uh, she's able to stay at home, and her husband's an influencer as well. And she's a lovely singer, and she actually did her brother's walkout song when he played for Boston College. They now play it at Yankee Stadium when he
Oh, he
walks
went
out
to
to the
Boston
mound.
College. My son went to Boston College. Okay.
Yeah, great school.
Yeah.
So but she doesn't have to tour, and she's got endorsement deals. She's, you know, uh, able to do things with very compact electronics that you would have had to have someone master it and mix it down, and she could do it all in her bedroom, you know?
What I think about that, I have a very strong feeling about that. If that works for her, that's great. But for me, I'm more tactile. I like interacting with people. I
I
like
agree with you.
people. I don't like I text all the time, but I don't like texting. I'd rather talk to somebody, and doing a
Mhm.
Zoom is better because I see who I'm talking to. So
Mhm.
in that respect, becoming more impersonal with everything we do, I don't like that at all. So I don't know. I mean, you adapt. I mean, the scary thing about it is that maybe somebody can steal your whatever they call it, who steal your identity.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's a scary part. I could be talking. You could think you're talking to Richard Baratta, but
I've totally generated
maybe,
artificially
yeah,
somehow.
I might be out shopping right now at Whole Foods.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. It
Yeah,
really is.
yeah.
But
But
love
what are we
is
going to do? I mean, you either move forward or if you stay the same. When Elvis came on, you brought him up. When he came on the Ed Sullivan Show, parents were saying you can't watch that guy.
right,
You know,
right.
Now, you go to, what's her name, Minaj, and I mean, can you imagine her being on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1960?
Oh my God, no. Well, yeah, Coachella, they don't haven't they had like, holograms of, artists from the past and things
Right.
like that. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't pay money to see it though. It's just too bizarre for me. It's too out
Right.
there. I'd rather come down to the side door and see you guys, your sextet live, interacting as human beings with
Right.
the audience in an intimate
Yeah,
venue.
well, I want people, listen, please come down to your audience. If they've lasted this long, then they probably can last at the side door. If they've
I think
listened,
they can. Yeah, I think they can.
yeah.
Well, this has been fun. I don't want to keep you all day, but you're a cool guy. You're very engaging and had a very neat career, and we could probably talk for hours. And
Yeah.
the next time you find your way in Old Lyme, I definitely would love to get together for a
Well, I
cocktail.
hope, listen, I hope I'll be up here again. I'm playing at the Palace Theater at the Polo Lounge. You know that up in Waterbury.
I saw that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw
so I mean that's
you
kind of
playing
on
the
the other
new
side
Zinc
of the
bar.
state for
Yeah,
you.
but you gig at the Zinc too, right?
Yeah, the Zinc. Yeah, I'm playing with Kukowski and that band. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I used to go to the one at 90 West Houston. I haven't been to the new location yet.
I haven't either, and maybe I shouldn't say that, but
Yeah.
I have. But I'm certainly going to be there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I used
I
to
was at
go
the
in.
old one too. I was at the old one.
Yeah, Roy Hargrove used to live on that block, and so if you went late at night, Roy would be hanging out with his friends and keeping his chops. And
Sorely missed.
oh, you know, I had a long talk with both Bobby Watson and Slide Hampton about that, about losing Roy,
Yeah,
and he had issues. Everybody knew he had issues. And I told Slide before he passed, I said, for God's sakes, can some of you elders do something before it's too late? And he's like,
sometimes you can't do anything.
yeah,
Sometimes.
he said, with a lot of people who have an issue, they've got to want to get out of their own way and recover. And
It's
what was a drag to me is, when they wrote the stories of his passing, they made it sound as if he had medical issues and that there was no mention of addiction. And I understand being respectful of his family and that they're mourning, but also, discussing it rather than closeting what caused his physical issues and his body to shut down and to pass away way too early, is a conversation that
Yeah, well, some
could
people
be a
don't.
teaching moment for you and your kids, for instance, or whatever,
Some people don't. They find that sometimes the truth seems too painful. Yet, in the year 2023, approaching 24, what haven't we heard?
Right, right. There's nothing that's sacrosanct. They're discussing everything with kids in kindergarten that you can imagine and not imagine. I mean, your kids come home from grade school and teach you what's going on,
Oh yeah,
right?
no, no. Just, I mean, come on. Yeah.
So, to not have an open conversation about, opioid abuse or whatever, and
Well,
uh,
I guess, I mean, maybe that's a mental problem,
yeah,
but it's a whole different kind of mental problem.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, I in my life, I never saw anybody as talented as Roy Hargrove on a sworn mile. I mean, he was just
A
amazing.
lot a lot of them went that route, and Lee
Yeah,
Morgan, another trumpet player. Well, I mean,
yeah,
he got shot, but who knows what would have happened to him? So.
yeah, yeah. But the good thing is, more of my friends than not have found themselves in recovery from, the music business is tough, and maybe it's a blessing that while you were raising your family, you had a respite from the music business
Oh, I wouldn't
because
be. I probably wouldn't be playing music. I mean, I don't. I mean, I have so much enthusiasm right now to
mm,
play, and so much desire and energy. I probably would have been beaten up pretty good from that period of time. So I don't even know if I would be playing. I don't know if I certainly
interesting.
wouldn't be as fresh to me. It's real fresh now. So, like I said, I wouldn't trade anything, and I think it comes out in the music too.
That's cool. That's cool. No, I met Jody Williams. He used to play with Howlin' Wolf. He's the other guitarist as well as Hubert Sumlin. And he worked a day job and left music for decades, and then when he became a retiree, he came back to it. And I saw him at Hubert's Memorial at the Apollo, which had Eric Clapton, Keith Richards, Kim Wilson, Warren Haynes, Susan Tedeschi, Robert Randall. I mean, it was like a Clapton's Crossroads. But thank goodness they included a guy like Jody Williams, and it was so nice to see him come back for a second act. And
Yeah, well, some
you
people
know,
do that, me
yeah,
included.
I mean, it's really nice. I mean, it's great. And another one who was wonderful, Betty Harris, who had been the original soul queen of New Orleans, worked with Alan Toussaint, and then she got married to a truck driver and settled down in the Hartford area, and only sang in church for 40 years. And then when her husband passed, her kids said, "Hey, mom, your 45s are going for like $200-300 on the internet." She's like, "I'm not really accustomed to the internet. Can you show me this thing?" So they show her, and some guys from Boston got her out of retirement, and she ended up getting a single on a Christina Aguilera LP that was enough money for her to buy a very large house, something that she,
Yeah.
absolutely was not expecting, and she's retired nicely, but she had a nice second act, so
I
so
did.
nice.
We're gonna stop because
Yeah, no, definitely.
people can't listen to me this long. They can listen to you that long, but they can't
Yeah.
listen to me this long. But I did a show that never was finished. We shot. It was called Broadway 4D, and it was
Hmm.
all Broadway shows. One tune, one uh, showpiece from many different shows. There were 12 different shows.
Yeah.
And we had Christina Aguilera, and we
Mm.
had Betty Buckley, and we had Hugh Jackman doing something from Oklahoma. We had all these sets. We were going to build all these sets, and then they were going to have the show on Broadway at a theater on Broadway, one of the old theaters negotiated with, and it was going to be in 4D. 4D. So the seats were going to move, and
Wow.
the interactive. It was an interactive experience, like South Pacific. You would feel the rain, the mist coming off the. So we were doing all that. So it ran out of money. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was some squirrely financing coming from China that it was a whole thing. Anyway, immigration thing. But we shot something with Christina Aguilera. She was Eva Perón, playing Eva Perón in Eva.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she sang "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina."
Argentina.
We did this whole set, and we shot it in 3D. Everything was going to be shot in 3D. So when you went to
Cool.
see it, they threw the hat. You would
Mm.
feel the hat coming at you in the audience. And, it was really a great thing. I'm so sad that it didn't happen. And but we shot her part. So for 2 days, I was around Christina Aguilera, or one day. That's all it took, one day.
Mhm.
And what a gorgeous voice.
Yeah, man.
Oh my God. I mean, it really, I mean, that's not my music. I mean,
Nor
I'd have to
mine, but
be
I know a
living.
good voice when I hear it,
Yeah,
as
a
do
good
you.
voice when you hear it. And
Yep.
she could sing. She could sing,
Oh,
and she
yeah.
looked great, and she sang, and it was wonderful. And then, like 3 days later, the thing went down. It was very sad. But you brought her up, so I mean,
Yeah.
we could talk forever. Yes, we could.
No, we could. Well, we did have that whole 4D thing one time before. It was called the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yes.
When they would say a toast, and the kids in the audience would throw toast at the screen.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, that was like 60, whatever that was. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the real deal.
Yeah, that was fun. Kids today wouldn't even know what to do with it at a thing like that.
Maybe they would.
Maybe they would. We got to get them really high first.
Yeah.
But anyway, this was fun.
Oh, like we didn't have people didn't get high back in 1965 to go see Rocky Picture.
They may have. I can
something.
neither confirm or deny
Yeah,
that
right.
was the case.
Anyway, all right. So hey, listen, thanks for taking the time out to
pleasure.
talk to me and to promote that club, because it's a wonderful club. And if anybody's in the area, and then I know a lot of people watch your podcast and your interviews, please come out. Even if it's on my show, come out. But if you come out to my show, you can ask me questions, and I'll answer questions there.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Richard.
My pleasure.
All right. We'll talk soon. Safe travels
Yes,
to
yes,
Hawaii.
we will talk, because I have other questions to ask you. So there you go.
Okay. Thanks
All
so
right, be
much.
well. All
All
right,
right, thanks.
thanks a lot.
Bye.